After studying this module, we shall be able to know the various modes of handling conflict, learn the principles of negotiation, identify negotiation skills and strategies. We shall commence this module by studying the managing conflict. Managing conflict. As conflict have many negative aspects attached to it, it is significant to resolve conflict. Conflict can be handled in numerous ways. Different authors have given different modes of handling conflict. Thomas and Gilman suggested 5 modes of handling conflict: competition, collaboration, accommodation, compromising, avoidance. Raheem identified various styles of handling interpersonal conflict: obliging, integrating, compromising, dominating, avoiding. Now we will learn about Thomas and Gilman model. This model uses 2 dimensions: cooperativeness, the degree to which one party attempts to satisfy the other party's concern, and assertiveness, the degree to which one party attempts to satisfy his or her own concerns. The 5 conflict resolving techniques are explained below with the help of 2 above stated dimensions. Competing. When an individual is assertive, he wants to satisfy his concern, and uncooperative, that is, he is not concerned about the other party's concern. This approach means individuals are more concerned about getting what they want and are not concerned with the other party's interest. For example, a manager wanting a subordinate to complete a project by a particular date and the subordinate wanting to extend the deadline. In this case, if the manager does not listen to the subordinate at all and is assertive of getting the work done by a particular date, also he is not at all cooperating with the subordinates, then we will say that the manager is using a competing conflict resolution technique. Collaborating. When an individual is assertive as well as cooperative, it leads to collaborating. Parties are eager to resolve the issue by finding a mutually beneficial solution. This can also be called as win-win situation, as parties are not only concerned about their interest but also genuinely concerned about the other party's interest. For example, a manager wanting a project to be completed by the subordinate by the end of a particular month communicates to his team that the project should be over by 25th of that particular month, and the team says that they would want to finish it by 30th. In this case, if the manager is assertive and cooperative also, he would work with the team to look for a mutually beneficial deadline and might agree to extend the deadline to 30th of that month, provided the team shows the full rough draft of the project by 28th. Avoiding. A person is aware that there exists a conflict, but he/she withdraws from it or suppresses it by avoiding it. That is, he or she is uncooperative as well as unassertive. For example, a subordinate was to finish a task by a particular date, but he was not able to complete it, and knowing that he will be scolded for that, he takes a long leave so that he can withdraw and suppress the entire issue. In this case, he is neither assertive nor cooperative, accommodating. In this situation, the person behaves in a cooperative but unassertive manner. Thus, hereby, an individual is not concerned about his interest, rather more concerned about other parties' interest. For example, in case where the manager gave 25th as the deadline and subordinates wanted 30th as the deadline, if the manager agrees to extend the deadline to 30th, it means manager is cooperative but unassertive and hence follows an accommodating conflict resolution technique. Compromising, when each party to a conflict seeks to give up something resulting in a compromising situation. The difference is that each party is willing to give up something. For example, in case where the manager wanted the deadline to be 25th and the team wanted the deadline to be 30th, if the manager finalizes that the deadline will be 28th, it will be called as a compromising situation. Now we will discuss about the Raheems model of conflict resolution. Obliging, high concern for others and low concern for self. This approach involves satisfying the other party. This style is appropriate when you are wrong. Preserving of relationship is more important. Integrating, high concern for others and high concern for self. This approach is problem solving as it involves openness and seeks to resolve the issue by information sharing. Alternatives are discussed and concern for both the parties is integrated. Avoiding, low concern for others and low concern for self. This is known as withdrawal approach. This approach is appropriate when the issue is trivial and it is better to avoid the issue rather than confront it. In this situation, neither the concern for self nor the concern for others is important. Dominating, high concern for self and low concern for others. This style is aggressive style whereby the concern for self is more important than concern for others. This style is appropriate when decisions are to be made quickly. Issue is important. Compromising, intermediate in concern for self and others. Involve give and take whereby both parties give up something to make a mutually acceptable decision. This style is adequate when both parties have equal power, when consensus cannot be reached. Now we will understand about the bargaining strategies. Bargaining and negotiations are terms used interchangeably, and they mean that a process in which two or more parties exchange goods or services and attempt to agree on the terms. Distributive bargaining. It assumes fixed pie approach, that is, there is only one pie which needs to be divided amongst both the parties. Hence, the gain that one party gets is at the expense of the other party. Example, labor management bargaining. Labor wants more wages and management wants to pay less wages. It requires parties to aggressively bargain. It promotes only short-term relationship as only one party is satisfied by the solution. Integrative bargaining. It assumes that there are more than one settlement that create a win-win solution. It is considered a better approach as it leaves both the parties happy. This requires flexibility on account of both the parties. It helps in developing long-term relationship as parties are satisfied with each other. This is also known as win-win approach. Now we will discuss distributive versus integrative bargaining. Bargaining characteristics. Goal. Distributive bargaining get as much bigger piece of pie as possible, and integrative bargaining to expand the pie so that each party gets a bigger part. Motivation. Distributive bargaining win or lose, and integrative bargaining win-win. Focus. Distributive bargaining is to get maximum and integrative bargaining to reach a mutually beneficial situation. Interest. Distributive bargaining opposed and integrative bargaining congruent. Information sharing. Distributive bargaining low, as it will allow other party to take advantage, and integrative bargaining high, as it will allow reach a fruitful solution. Duration of relationship. Distributive bargaining is short term and integrative bargaining is long term. Moving on to discuss about negotiation process. Negotiation process has 5 stages attached to it, which are as follows. Preparation and planning. Before actual negotiation, a lot of groundwork is to be done. That is, both the parties should do their homework. This means information regarding what is the issue of conflict, what are the alternative solutions, how does the issue affect other, what are its causes and outcomes. The parties should plan what needs to be achieved and how. BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Parties should determine their and other parties' best alternative. Definition of ground rules. After the preparation stage, parties should determine the ground rules, like who will do the negotiation, where will it take place, what time constraints. Clarification and justification. At this stage, each party explains his or her point of view. A lot of discussion takes place in this stage. The 4th stage is bargaining and problem solving. In this stage, give and take is done. Parties will undoubtedly have to make concession. 5th stage, closure and implementation. This is the final stage where the bargaining process closes with final solution and implementation of solution. Examples of negotiation are buying vegetables from vegetable vendors, doing street shopping at Sarojini Market or Janpat, companies negotiating with the suppliers of raw materials or customers for the price of the goods. Now we shall recapitulate what we have learned so far. Managing conflict is significant for an organization as it creates dysfunction in organizations. Thomas and Gilman have given a conflict resolution model which constitutes 5 modes, namely competing, collaborating, avoiding, accommodating and compromising. Raheem has also given a conflict resolution model consisting of 5 conflict resolution techniques, namely obliging, integrating, avoiding, dominating and compromising. There are 2 bargaining approaches, which are integrative bargaining strategy and distributive bargaining strategy. Negotiation is a process when two parties exchange goods or services with each other, attempt to agree on terms. Negotiation process has 5 steps, which are preparation and planning, definition of ground rules, clarification and justification, bargaining and problem solving, and finally closure and implementation.